My name is Marilyn DeRosa. I am a Deputy Public Works Director, and I've been with many of the other staff members working on not just the water and solid waste rate studies, but also on a variety of programs that those two utilities have to offer the community. So I just want to start by saying that every municipality and public utility in the country is facing the same sets of issues. The solid waste and the water and wastewater industries are changing every day. Both these utilities have enjoyed decades of working behind the scenes, but that life of invisibility is really over. As awareness of limited resource availability and climate change grow, and you, our customers, become more aware of your carbon footprint and sustainable living, you're asking for more and more information, and you're showing more interest in our programs. When you add that to increasing utility costs that typically outpace the CPI, the industry has to ask ourselves some hard and more nuanced questions. So the first thing we want to do is talk a little bit about government financing, how it works. And Jerry Hart is going to talk to you. He's our deputy director of our finance, the internal services.
Thank you once again for your presence and participation tonight. As Marilyn said, it's very important before we launch into the conversation later on in the presentation about the rate study is to provide you all with some information, some general information regarding the city's finance and how the various services that the city provides to our residents, what revenue sources pay for which services specifically. Most city services, for example, police, fire, community services, your park and recreation programs, our community development programs, building safety, our municipal court, most of those services are paid for by the city's general sales taxes, our primary property taxes, the intergovernmental revenues that we collect. And when I say intergovernmental revenues, the city receives a share of the state share sales taxes, as well as income taxes, as well as auto license fees, and other miscellaneous program fees. All of those revenues combined are what provide the services that I just enumerated, police, fire, and so on. And these services are provided out of the city's main operating fund, which is known as the general fund. We also have other services that you all are very familiar with. For example, and they're not indicated here on the slide, but I'll cover them briefly. Our transit services that you're very familiar with. Our bus, light rail, orbit services are paid for by the transit sales tax that the voters authorized some years ago. Additionally, are the operations of the Tempe Center for the Arts. Actually, the construction and operation of the Tempe Center for the Arts was paid for and is being paid for by the arts tax. And our street and transportation services are paid for by the highway user revenue funds that we receive, otherwise known as the gas tax. And those revenues are received from the state of Arizona. All of those revenues that I just enumerated, transit tax, the arts tax, as well as the highway user revenue that we receive are all accounted for in special, what we call special revenue funds. And they're included in special revenue funds because the use of those revenues are restricted. We can't just use them for anything. They are restricted for those purposes. Gov't, solid waste, water, and wastewater services are paid for by the fees charged to customers and are provided through separate enterprise funds. These enterprise funds are designed to recover 100% of the cost of providing those services through the fees that are charged. One thing that I would like to bring to everyone's attention, because I know this has been an issue for some time now, is the operations of Tempe Town Lake. Tempe Town Lake and the costs associated with the operation of that is paid for by the surrounding property owners of which the city of Tempe is a surrounding property owner of around Tempe Town Lake. And so we also have to pay, as a city, for our share of the operating costs of Tempe Town Lake. And the city's share of the operating costs of Tempe Town Lake actually come from the general fund. No revenues from any of our enterprise funds are used to pay any of the costs of the operations of Tempe Town Lake. The focus of this year's rate study is on solid waste, water, and wastewater fees. Golf fees are not a part of this rate study effort this year. And lastly, like all governments at every level, resources are not unlimited, and the city has to work with the limited resources provided by the community in the provision of the variety of services that our residents rely on. Our goal as city staff is to always look to utilize those resources as effectively and efficiently as possible. And that is a primary goal and undertaking in this whole rate study process that we're doing, is to ensure that we're maximizing the resources that you all as taxpayers and citizens provide to us. And with that, turn it back over to Marilyn.
We have different funds, and the water and wastewater and solid waste are considered enterprise funds, and only the fees that we collect and the rates that we collect for those services pay for those services. So I just want to assure you that when you pay your water rate, pay your water bill, you're paying for your water services. So now we're going to focus a little bit on how we set rates for these different utilities. And we have some guiding principles, and the guiding principles are on some boards around here. And when we're moving forward with this study, there's these 4 issues that we really like to keep in mind. As you listen to each of the updates in this presentation, you'll hear these common themes. Limited resources. Whether that's a water supply, whether that's landfill space, or whether that's our dollars, we have limited resources. These guide us in designing programs and pricing structures that allow us to use our resources wisely. Everyone, our customers as well as the city ourselves, we all have a responsibility to conserve these limited resources. Costs are allocated fairly and proportionately, and we need to be able to defend those costs. And throughout all of that we do, we're dedicated to transparency in our messaging, our decision-making, and our end results. So we'll keep those 4 points in mind as we go through the entire our rate-setting process, and try to keep them in mind as we go through the presentation. So rate setting. It's really not rocket science. It's pretty simple. There's 4 steps. We identify what are our revenue requirements. How much does it cost us to operate the utility? How much does it cost us to build, to replace infrastructure, those capital costs? And how much money do we need to keep in a rainy day fund, in our fund balance? So we get a number. We know what our requirement for revenue is. And we do a 10-year forecast. And then we identify, well, who's using the product that we're serving? In this case, water or sanitation, bulk trash pickup, and wastewater services. Who's using it, and how can we separate them into similar groups? We call those customer classes. There's residential customers, single-family residential customers. They have a different demand, a different use pattern than, say, an industrial customer or a commercial customer. So we have customer classes. Most of the folks in this room, I imagine, are in the single-family residential customer class. And state statute requires that however we set the rates, that they be just and reasonable. Once we know how much of those costs that we need we should allocate to those different customer classes, then we go in and create a rate design. By rate design, I mean you'll see different kinds of fees on your water bill. There's typically two in water. There's your fixed fee, just your hookup fee, and then there's a rate based on how much water you use, the volume of water that you use. So we identify, or we create a rate design, and that rate design not only needs to recover the costs for that customer class, but in many ways it reflects the community's values with respect to conservation or affordability. Yeah, each customer class needs to recover. We need to recover the costs from each customer class that are spent serving that class. And then finally what we do is we get this rate model and we say, all right, is it going to work for everybody, or is there something about it that is just wrong? So we run some models and we look at our key customers and try to identify whether there are some consequences, unexpected consequences with respect to the rate. Make sure those key customers aren't impacted in unusual ways. And make sure that we're clear on what are the drivers that are related to any adjustment or increase we might be recommending. Tony Miano is the Deputy Director of Public Works over the Sanitation, the Field Operations Division, and he's going to talk to you about the factors that affect the rate setting in solid waste.
Thank you. And so we have three major goals that we're trying to achieve with our solid waste and the rate studies. First one is diversion. For those of you who don't know, residential, we have a diversion rate of 40% diversion by 2020. And in our commercial side of the house, we have a 25% diversion by 2020. So that's one of our main goals because, and I'll get into a little bit more about why we really want to recycle and divert our material. The other one is also to build a circular economy. We want to make sure that when we are diverting our material, we're keeping the material within our city, within our valley, instead of shipping it out or burying it. And so that creates jobs within our neighborhoods. And the other one is customer retention and service, and that's mostly for commercial companies. We're trying to be more nimble. We're trying to figure out what our costs are for commercials on our commercial collection and keep them separate from our residential. We don't want one supplementing the other. So market volatility. Right now, the recycle market has went from $50 a ton that we used to get probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We get about $5 or $10 a ton. So we do have to keep that in mind. That's a revenue base for us. But it also is cheaper than burying it at $25 or $27 a ton. So that makes a big difference. So our market volatility as it goes up and down, we need to find a rate that keeps it flat. The other one is our landfill rates. We don't own our own landfill. So the infrastructure inside Tempe, we don't have that type of infrastructure. So we contract with a private vendor. And so every year that cost gets added. Now, even though we do long-term contracts, there's a CPI index that's built into that. So our costs continually keep going up year after year. And if you look at the vision for 10 years or 15 years, our landfill rates can go up almost a third in that time. Legislation passed last year, and so one of the issues we have for the commercial side of the house, which is apartments, they were able to leave. So legislation, when the state makes a state law that says the cities will have to abide by some of this, whatever they come up with, it really has an adverse effect sometimes on us. And so a lot of the apartment complexes have been, that are nationally known or valley known or state known, have been shifting over to private companies. So we've been losing that revenue source from our apartment complexes. And then, does anybody take a gander how much a garbage truck costs? Well, it's close to $350,000 per vehicle. And so when you look at equipment costs and how much those equipment costs have went up year after year, and we have a fleet of 40 of them, those costs and the maintenance on it and the cost per mile actually go into this rate. So we try to route as efficiently as possibly as we can, but, at our miles between $7 and $10 a mile, it's pretty expensive. The other piece is that we're trying to be really leaders in the environmental stewardship of our city. And that's one of the things that we've really been pressing towards. And coming up, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Green Organics program, the container program that we're going to roll out tonight to you. But being that environmental leader, having our equipment to run on CNG, compressed natural gas, instead of diesel, which is cleaner for the environment, does come with a cost. Those vehicles are a little bit more, but the fuel's a little bit less. And when you're trying to look at what fuel cost may be 10, 15, 20 years down the road, our valley is a very good entity for compressed natural gas and the gas system. So it'll be cheaper for us getting it through the pipeline than to get fuel trucked in. So the objectives for our rate study is our Green Organics program. So many years ago, we've transformed our bulk trash collection. And we used to have monthly collection, and now we have bi-monthly collection. That was a huge cost savings. We used to drive by everybody's house and pick up, about 25% of the customers, but yet we drove by every house in the city. And our new system that we have is really the catalyst of what our composting program is. And all the material that we've diverted, it's almost 4,000 tons a year and almost 10,000 tons since we really started our compost program. That's been a catalyst of reducing our costs. That's been a catalyst of putting that material back in our parks. We've been giving it out to all of our customers in Tempe. Actually, valley-wide, we've had people come all over to take our compost. We're just trying to get people educated on utilizing that service. Our goal is to divert up to 10,000 tons in our composting program. Again, if you think about that, that's 10,000 tons of green organics material that we would normally landfill. And we would normally pay for a larger rate than what we're doing now. We're one of the only cities in the valley right now that collects from our customers, we process our own material, and we give it back to the public. So that circular economy that I was talking about, that's kind of fits right into that mold. We take it from the public, we cook it, we process it, we get it lab tested, and we put it back into the parks, into schools, into community gardens. And so those are some of the things that'll really help out on the Green Organics program. So same-day collection. So this is a program where you would, if you had curbside collection, you would roll your green garbage container out at the curb and your blue recycle container out at the curb on the same day. And so we've did a couple of studies, forum groups within our city right now, just to, if they like the idea or not. This program's been rolling out valley-wide. A lot of the cities are moving forward to it. It's really a customer service piece. A lot of customers love it. They only have to roll out their containers once in a while or once a week. We also get some routing efficiencies. So instead of picking up the city 50% each collection day, we pick it up at 25% each collection day. So we reduce the mileage. We get better compaction in our trucks because we're not driving further distances. And that will help us reduce some of our costs. It's not a lot, but it's a little. But again, every little piece helps. And so the other piece of that, our savings, is we're going to transfer that to our Green Organics third container. And I'll talk a little bit about that in another slide. But so it's not a cost savings, it's really a cost avoidance. We're just moving that cost to another program where we don't have to charge for it. Commercial cost recovery, again, that's one of our pieces that we've really been trying to identify. What's our cost to pick up commercial? We don't have to pick up commercial anymore. The state came in and July 1st of last year said, it's not mandated that you pick up apartment complexes or any commercial entities. So we're trying to be competitive, but we're also trying to look at where are we losing money and why, and then do we cut those costs, and because they have options. People can go to other locations or other commercial businesses for those services. So pricing parity is based on living unit type, and that parity for us is we want to make sure that everybody pays their fair share. Again, that was one of the guiding principles. Everybody pays their fair share. And so part of that piece is that we have some living units that aren't paying their fair share, but yet they get pretty much the full brunt of the service. So we've been gradually moving them in, and we'll be moving them in more and more into our system. We're thinking that in the long run, everybody will be, when we talk about the SMART program, that will give people opportunity if they really want to reduce their solid waste rates, they'll be able to go and opt into the SMART program. And then, so to save money, that's the SMART program. So we'll go into that one. Let's see if I got, nope, there we go. One more. So here's the SMART program. So SMART pricing model is save money and recycle 10P. It's basically priced by container size. So if you look here, you have the green organics container. That's the third container that we've been giving. It's a pilot program right now that we've been giving residents to put green organics, grass, manures, and it's been a very successful pilot program right now, so we're going to keep expanding it. This program, it's not going to reach everyone in the city because it's a cost to the service, but we're trying to divert that material. We have a lot of green organic material going to the landfill that we could turn around and reduce our cost to the landfill, reduce our transfer because we're coming back to the yard with this material. We compost at our facility, so we don't have to drive to a transfer station who then drives to a landfill, and then they wind up burying it. So that reduces even more greenhouse gas and more miles in the solid waste realm. So the SMART program starts out with, this is a 48-gallon container, a 65-gallon container is in the middle, gray one or black one, and then a 96-gallon container or 100. It depends on who wins the bid that year. It gets how many, a couple of gallons more. So those are the three garbage container types. And so the SMART container will incentivize. We hear a lot from people going, there's only 2 of us living in our household. I don't need a big container, and so this is an opportunity for them to go with a smaller container. This is also an opportunity to recycle more. When we go out and do what we call a garbology study, where we take a load of garbage and look through it, and you see how much material in it is still recyclables. We're at about a 27% diversion rate, Dawn. Do you happen to? And that Dawn will talk about when you go to the study groups. But that's cost savings. We get paid for that instead of disposing of that. So that's our main goal too of this study is how do we get people to invest time in recycle and diversion. Marilyn?
All right, Tony likes to talk trash. With respect to water, we have goals, just like Tony has goals. And I've listed 3 of them here. Conservation is the responsibility of all of us. Resiliency means that even if we have a failure, a catastrophic failure at one of our water plants or out in the distribution system, we can still serve you water. So it's redundancy, it's resiliency. Redundancy also with respect to water supplies. So we have a lot of goals around ensuring that you guys receive your water 24/7, 365, even if we've got some issue at a plant or in a distribution system. And then customer service. This is part of our enhancement of our customer services. We'd like to get more information out to the customers. We'd like to be more available to answer questions. Affecting those goals, though, we've got some challenges that make it a challenge to achieve those goals. An aging distribution system, you've probably all read that in the news. Some of our water pipes are 80 years old. They're made of material that's eroding, and those need to be replaced in order to ensure reliable service. Emerging regulations, these are things about the EPA and safe drinking water regulations, new regulations that require that we change the way we treat the water. Climate stress is one that we're all living through in real time. We don't know how climate stress is going to affect our water supply, and therefore affect our utility. So we're all living through that in real time. Capacity issues as the community grows. Do we have enough? Do we have enough of the resource? Do we have enough capacity in the system to meet all of our needs? And then, as I mentioned previously, program cost recovery. What's important is that we don't run in a deficit. If we were a private utility, we would have the ability to make a little extra money, to make a profit. We don't do that. We collect enough revenue to support our program costs. So what are the objectives that we have when we're working with our consultant on our water and sewer rates? Well, with respect to single-family residential customers, we're doing these rate studies every 2 years. Every other year, we do a 10-year model. What we've learned from 2 years ago till now is that we probably need to look a little more closely at that single-family residential structure. You may all be familiar with how the structure works. Your first 6,000 gallons of water are priced at $1.79 per thousand, $2.24 for the next 6,000 units, and so on, till you reach that highest tier. So if you're using a lot of water, you end up paying $1.79 for the first 6,000, $2.24 for the second 6,000, $3.36, and then eventually $5.04. We've been asked to evaluate those tiers, keeping in mind that revenue, our recovery is important, but and affordability at the low end is important, and how are we going to manage that with respect to our conservation goals? Acknowledging that a lot of customers, that we have a variety of customers in the community, and how they manage their landscaping, how they're using their water at their home is acknowledging that they're using their water in a way that supports some of the community's other goals with respect to shade and our urban forest and tree canopy and heat island effect. So we're trying to balance those. We're looking at that in this next rate structure. So I just want to, there have been some questions about this inclined block rate structure for volumes in the single family residential class. So I want to talk about why that exists. If you're serving water to an industrial customer, for example, they use water at a rate that's pretty predictable. If their facility is operating 24/7, they're typically using the same amount of water every day, 24/7. And we can predict that. With respect, in this chart, we're showing, how much time is it? It's 2 years worth of data. Each of those ticks at the bottom is 1 month. So we show, in the dark blue, we're showing the single family customer class and their demand. And in the light blue, we're showing a multifamily and their demand. If we put an industrial customer up here, it'd basically be a flat line. They use the same amount every year, every day. So we build our system and we staff our utility to ensure that we can meet every customer's demand. If you have a predictable demand, then it's pretty easy to do our staffing and build our infrastructure. The single-family residential customer in that class tends to use much more water in the summer than they do in the winter. So what this graph is showing is that the lowest point in that 2-year period, the dark blue lowest point, was 240 million gallons or something that we served in March to our single-family residential class. And then just 4 months later, in July, we served them more than twice as much water. So when the customer class asks for that demand, when you open your tap or you turn on your irrigation outside, you have the expectation that water is going to come out. And it's going to be an adequate pressure to do what you would like to do. So our responsibility is to ensure that that water is available, that the pressure is available, and that the infrastructure is available to serve it. What that means is we build this big infrastructure so that we can meet that peak demand, but we don't use it all year long. So this is it's referred to as a peaking factor. So the costs related to that peaking factor are attributed to that class of customer. So industrial doesn't have a peaking factor. Commercial has a very small peaking factor. Here's the multifamily is the light blue. They have a little bit of a peak, but the difference is about 60%.
On the multifamily, because we have more and more multifamilies coming up.
Yeah, and you know, I know, and we could show you all the data. This is, see those multifamily, the difference is, she asked about, there's more and more multifamily, and she's surprised that they don't have more of a peaking factor. The difference is that multifamily, they have a different meter for their landscape. They have a landscape meter.
Separated.
Yes, they separate it.
If you added it, that would explain why we have a flat rate for it. We shouldn't have.
Yeah, their landscape meter is, they have a different meter. They're metering their landscape use differently, and that has a different rate attached to it. That rate is higher because we have to, that demand typically comes during these high use times. So we can certainly dig deeper into the data, but I wanted to show that the single-family residential customer class does have a different demand profile than most of the other classes. And you know, you're familiar with this from your energy bills. They have it down to a science. They do hourly metering, right? You can do time of use at your house. We bill monthly. We're getting the technology to improve that granularity, if you will, to get reads on smaller and smaller increments. But until we do, we only read, right now, we just read the meters once a month. So I said that there are a lot of things going on in each of the utilities, but we also have tools to try to help the customers manage those costs, because those costs are going up. They're going up for everybody. They're going up for us. That means they're going to go up for you. So we're really enhancing our programs to help the customers manage their water use, and Tony's providing different kinds of programs with respect to sanitation to try to help you manage the use at your house so that you can manage your costs. So I'll let Gretchen talk for just a couple of minutes. We're pretty much done about some of the conservation programs that she's got.
So I'll make this super quick because I know we're almost out of time. So I'm the water resource manager. So my job here at Tempe is to manage our water resource portfolio. And so we all know that we live here in the desert, and one of our guiding principles is it's a limited supply. That's not a surprise. I don't have to state it. We all know that. So one of the things we need to do is be stewards of that. And so my job is to help everybody understand, staff as well as residents, understand that aspect, and then to give people the tools to figure out how to be stewards of the environment. So we have several rebates, both commercial and residential, to help you manage and reduce some of your usage. So you can see above you, those are some of the residential rebates that we have. We have a toilet rebate, we have a zero escape conversion rebate, we also have a gray water rebate. And then we have a brand new rebate that we just put together right now in the last couple of months, and it's an efficient irrigation rebate. So we're gonna come out and talk to you about how you irrigate your yard, and how you can more efficiently irrigate your yard. Because I bet most of you don't completely understand that. don't understand time of day, or don't understand exactly how you need to water your plants, or what is your age of your irrigation system. That's a big factor in how much water you use. So we want to come out and help you be stewards of the environment, because that's important to Tempe and all Arizonans. And I want to challenge everybody to open your bills all the time and look at your water usage and really understand it. Don't just pay it. Really understand how your water fluctuates from month to month and season to season.
Just real quickly, I just wanted to give you all an update on the city's efforts to automate our meter read collection. As you all are aware, the city currently, once a month, manually reads all of the meters throughout the city, and we have 43,000 meters that are read each month. The city council last year gave us the direction to implement an automated meter reading system known as advanced metering infrastructure. And really what that is electronic meters with high-speed, real-time communication. And what you see on the screen there is just a basic overview of the system that we're in the process of deploying. The key component, or a key component of the system, is in the lower left corner of the screen there. You see smart meter endpoint. That is the endpoint. The endpoint gets attached to your water meter, and that is what enables us to collect the hourly reads from your meter that we can then utilize later for billing and other purposes that I'll get to. But the endpoints transmit, real quickly, the endpoints transmit the meter reads to either repeaters or collectors. As you see the arrows pointing to the repeaters and collectors. The collectors then transmit the reads to our meter data management system. That system in turn transmit those reads to our utility billing system, and we use that information ultimately, one read a month to produce your bill. But that system, that meter data management system, once again, reads are being continuously collected, and so that system will be available for our customers through a customer portal that I'll talk about in the next slide, for you to actually go back and look at your historical consumption, not one read per month, but many reads even in a particular day, because our system is collecting that much data, and that will certainly help you and help the city in terms of leak detection. And I hinted at this already, but an important benefit of implementing this system is the customer portal. And with this customer portal, what we're hoping to really do for our customers is to promote transparency. We want you to have a tool that you could utilize whenever you want to get whatever information that you need regarding your consumption at your residence. Some of the goals of the portal, or what we hope to achieve with the portal, is to empower customers to better understand and manage their water use. I've already addressed historical consumption, but one thing that we're looking to perhaps achieve with this is to allow you to perhaps compare your consumption with, perhaps like-sized properties. Water conservation. You just heard a little bit from the previous speaker regarding our water conservation efforts. We hope to make available through this tool lots of information on the various water conservation programs that are available, to our citizens, to help them in their efforts to reduce their water consumption. So those tools, that information combined with the historical consumption data that will be at your fingertips will greatly improve your ability to manage your own water use, at your residence. Another thing is this will allow us to do is improve our communication to our residents. We'll be able to target our messaging to specific segments of our customer base, depending upon what the need is. And then finally, as always, we're looking to make available through this portal options for our customers to pay their utility bill. And my last slide is just a general timeline as to where we are in the project. As you can see, this entire project actually began back in fiscal year 13-14 in terms of our planning. Where we are right now is we actually began the installation of those endpoints that I mentioned earlier, the smart meter endpoints, in December of last year. We have installed approximately 6,000 endpoints at this point, and meaning we have about 37,000 more installations to go. It's going to take us, we project it's going to take us through the end of the first quarter of calendar year 2019 to get this system fully deployed. Right now, we are, with the 6,000 endpoints that we currently have installed, we're in a testing phase right now, which will probably take us about another 30 to 45 days to finish that testing phase to ensure that the system is working as designed. And then once that testing phase is completed, and we'll really be able to ramp up the installation of the endpoint to get this system deployed as soon as possible.
So where are we in this process? Believe it or not, we are in that first arrow where it says spring, even though it doesn't really feel like spring to probably anybody in this room. We conducted some focus groups in April. We worked with them, got some input. Some of the people in this room were part of that. So we are now in that phase where we are holding the public meetings that you see there, the 2 public meetings. The second will be on Saturday. It'll be at the Arizona Community Church in the morning. If you want more info on that, well, you probably have received it if you're here today. So this summer, we'll be taking all your comments, all the input we've received through this process, giving it to our consultants. They'll analyze it with the data that they've been given and come up with a rate structure. That will be in the fall. In the fall, we'll then have another series of public meetings where we'll disclose what the results of those studies are, and we'll begin meetings with the city council. The council will get that information about the structure. There'll be hearings again, and they will make a decision probably November, December. And then the actual rates would go into effect in January of 18 if council approves. So my job here is to help be that conduit between the departments and the public and to provide you with any information you need. Probably your best starting point is always this website that's up on the screen, or you can call me or anyone else in this room. There's contact info for everybody on the website, and we all give out cards. We're around all the time.